Good morning, podcast. We've changed names. Jonathan has a new, and I do. So you're talking to two people that have done a strategic rebranding. And this is a lesson for anybody. You always have to brand because in a busy world, if you're not simple enough where people can grab your concept, you ain't going to get through the 60,000 marketing messages that are out there. So I'm Podcaster Pete, founder of High Performance Podcast Mastery, and on as the host of Fractional Executive Podcast. Jonathan, will you introduce yourself and exactly what you do, who you are, who you serve? No, wait, who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Absolutely. Yeah, my name's Jonathan Tremblay. I'm a tech and operational empowerment coach for Pivotal Exec Solutions. We essentially help match people up with the fractional executives that they need for their business. And that's it.
Well, we're going to talk about our three concepts that, you want to really help people understand, because if you understand these three concepts, you will go from small business to big business. And the whole goal of any small business owner, Facebook didn't become Facebook the way it is today by not practicing principles of success and growth. Same with Amazon, same with all the different big companies out there. So, Jonathan, let address with our viewers the idea that you bring, which is the value of experience and knowledge. Let's dig into that a little bit so people can understand what that does to help them grow.
100%. Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I've learned as a business owner is that the things that you don't know are the things that will, kill your business, your time, your money, everything, for you to go out and learn and find out. Right. And I think we went to like a meetup event here locally in the Kennesaw area, and they had panelists of these business owners who have been there for 20 years running these incredibly successful businesses. And when they were asked what's the hardest part about running a business after 20 years, the biggest thing that they identified was you don't know what you don't know. And there is so much pain involved in that process of finding that out. Well, for us as fractional executives, what we have found is that if you bring in an expert, someone, for example, like me, who has worked with Fortune 500 companies like Mercedes, Patron Tequila, McDonald's, who already has the experience and the knowledge of the larger corporate enterprises and the big winners out there, I can come into your business and advise you and go, hey, here's what's possible. And oftentimes I get reactions all the time like, wait, you can do that? And I'm watching them going like, oh man, had I not said anything, they were getting ready to go down this journey and this path that was going to be extremely challenging, extremely painful, and going to cost them a ton of time and a ton of money. But by me just simply dropping that one piece of knowledge that says, hey, this is possible, you might want to look into that, they go, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Thank you so much for letting, and there's so much value created there. And what's tough is always quantifying what didn't happen, right? And I'm like, I can tell you from personal experience and from working with so many different clients, I'm like, you were getting ready to spend hundreds of hours, tons of money, and a lot of headaches and sleepless nights by going down that path. But by telling you this, you're able to get a solution and you can scale, and there's all sorts of different value there. But the point is again, right? You have no idea how much pain, time, and money you save yourself by knowing what's available, knowing what the path is, and just simply taking that right path makes a huge difference.
Yeah, when we first met and we had a podcast, then we talked for several hours. I have done workarounds for 15 years, probably more, closer to 25 years, because I didn't know what I didn't know in the tech space. And so as I worked with you and as you kind of streamlined everything, it was like the weight just comes off your shoulders, and it frees you up to be more of who you are, not how many little obstacles you got to work around. Because technology, for me, I mean, I'm 66. I didn't grow up with this stuff. I don't know all this stuff. I mean, it's like, but I would always try to figure it out, which is the worst thing to do because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I could list out about 10 things that all of a sudden you go, oh, here, let's do this. Here's a way we can work through this. Here's another way that'll allow you to do this. And you systematize things that allow me to work 10 times faster. And I think that's similar for businesses. We don't know what we don't know because we've always been, and I'm just going to say this, as guys, we always like to figure things out. You know, like it's a badge of honor that I could search on YouTube and find a solution and then apply it. That's time. And that's time that's wasted because I'm trying to be an expert in tech, which I shouldn't touch it. I mean, I shouldn't even be anywhere close. So I love how you really help people understand that. Now, the second concept, buying back your time. Now, my partner sent us this, and it's really, you've helped me buy back time. And I want our viewers to kind of get their knowledge base around that. What does it mean when somebody will say, like, you're giving them back their time? What would you say to our viewers on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest lessons and things that I always try to teach everyone is like, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. So why is it that there are people who are homeless, people who, have middle class wages, and then you've got people like Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk, and things of that nature who are making billions with the same 24 hours in the day?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that I have to like try to get people to understand is like, so as a coach, and I've been involved in a lot of like homeless ministries and things of that nature. I was homeless myself at 18, and you get into the situation where you realize like there is very little in the amount of skills and brain power, if you will, that a homeless person has versus my executives who are in the corporate world, doing incredible work, versus the millionaire investors that I know and things of that nature. We all really, in full transparency, we're not all that much different. We all have the same brain power. We all have the same 2 hands and feet. And the fact of the matter is like, we can all do the same thing. The thing that's different though, is the mindset around how we go about doing things, right? And again, right, like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they spend their time in the right places and put in the right focus and priorities on the right things with their 24 hours. And those things grow their business. I always refer to, there's a book called The Goal that Amazon actually has as required reading. And what it talks about is essentially the theory of constraints. And the theory of constraints essentially says you can sit here and spend your time on 1,000 different things, but if you're not focused on the one thing that is your primary constraint, right, your biggest constraint, everything else doesn't matter, right? Imagine a factory where you've got 10 machines. I always kind of use this example. And if machine number 3 is messed up, it doesn't matter if you work on machines 4 through 10, because machine number 3 is your bottleneck. You can sit here and make machine 4 super efficient, but you're not even using all of that machine because machine 3 is your bottleneck, right? You can work on machine 1 and 2, but it doesn't matter because 3 can't handle anymore anyway, right? Your business is the same exact way. Your life is the same way. The reality is there is always a constraint, a bottleneck somewhere within your business. And if you focus your time on that, you could spend 100 hours on everything else and it will not matter. You will not make a difference. But if you focused on the one thing that is your biggest bottleneck, you could spend 1 hour on that and have incredible exponential value returned. Now, obviously, the science is, how do you know? How do you know where your bottleneck is? How do you know where to focus your attention? Which gets us back to the fractional executive, services that we offer. The fractional exec can look at a factory like that of your business and their expertise and their skill set and go, yeah, I see you're spending time over here. I see you're spending time over there. But really, as I'm looking at this, you should really be spending your time here. And you will find that as soon as you turn around and you stop wasting your time, and we call it, what do you call it? Productive procrastination.
Yep.
Right? That is essentially what happens, right? We end up productively procrastinating from working on the one thing that is our biggest bottleneck. Ironically, our biggest bottleneck typically is the thing that the reason it became the bottleneck, the reason it became the weakness in your system is because you don't want to work on it, because there's something that is essentially like nasty or ugly or that you don't like about that particular thing. If you liked working on it, you would have already done it, right? And so the fractional exec kind of helps to pinpoint you down to the source of the issue, have you focusing your time there. And what you will find is you'll spend hundreds of less hours working on things that aren't important at the moment and working on the things that are important. And you will find that your time will exponentially increase in value.
Yeah. When you had Todd Lesson and Michelle Chapman on,
Yeah.
they have a heart for small businesses. They work with big businesses. And you think about people that want to pour in to small businesses, because if we don't focus on helping our small businesses become big, then we don't have an economy that can hit the potential, because everybody's got to, like you said, we got 24 hours. And if you don't work on your one thing and let all the other things become problems that get solved, you're going to always be small. And so to go to the third one, I love where we are tracking here. So if I'm like a small businesses and I say, dang, I can't afford a fractional CMO, CTO, what would you say to them when it comes to really that affordability objection?
100%. I think the reality is we're getting into, I feel like we're getting into a space in business and in the economy and everything where, like you mentioned, right? As executives, I've gone to the corporate world. I've done the crazy, VP jobs making $200,000 a year. I mean, the reality is like it's becoming ever more easy, I guess, to go about achieving what you want to achieve in the world, right? AI and knowledge and technology. Again, you now can do things that you just never could before. And what we're finding now is that, as like what happened to me, for example, as I went into the corporate world, and I think you mentioned the other day, right, on my LinkedIn, I've got this really nice shaven, picture and everything else, because that was kind of the persona that I had to be in order to be in the corporate world. Nowadays, though, I'm kind of in a point where I'm growing my hair out. I'm being who I want to be. I'm putting less value and less importance on the financials and on those types of things. And just like Todd, actually, Todd and I started doing business after we met on the podcast, and he's coming in and he's saying like, "Hey, I will help you with your business because I believe in what you're doing, because I want to support you, because there's an emotional and a meaning component to what he does." And it's the same thing for us, right? And what you'll find is like there's less of a focus on the financials nowadays. There is more of a focus on the culture, on the belief, on what it is that where your heart is, if you will. And what's actually funny in a way is like, even when I went up into the corporate world, and sure, okay, I was making $200,000 a year. What really, if you break that down, right? And here's an easy salary math thing for you, right? But an easy way to calculate your hourly rate off of a salary is just divided by 2,000, right? And so if you're making $200,000 a year, your hourly rate is essentially $100 an hour, right? Now, in the world of business, right, when I can come in at $300 an hour and provide you the information that you need, and you don't have to pay me $200,000 a year, and I can still come in and give you the knowledge for $300, that's huge. And
Mhm.
again, in a way, it's a win-win for us as executives, where
Yeah,
we actually do make more money per capita of what we're outputting. But in the process for you guys as business owners, it's actually cheaper for you guys because you don't have the resources to go out and be spending $200,000 a year. So realistically, I think when it comes down to a lot of that stuff, again, there's a mindset shift that has to occur where people think like the only way to get good people is to spend a ton of money, and that's no longer really the case.
right.
So anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? We're in a knowledge economy, and the thing about what we're doing here, which is podcasting, it has become. I heard a person explain it this way: when he was on TV, they had really tight deadlines and had 30 seconds or a minute to get their point across. Then when he shifted to podcast, he was able to dive deeper into topics and really give the viewership a better framing of the content. So he wasn't like had to look good, he had to say the right word. He could be himself and really explore deeper because we're moving away from traditional media into very niche. Because if somebody's in business and they're not applying a fractional executive concept, they ain't going to grow because your competitor is, because that's just the nature of a global economy. It's the nature of, do you know that Jonathan's out there? And if you do, you're going to apply the strategies to grow your business. Because I was just talking to Michelle yesterday, and we were talking about her desire to grow small businesses. And so she said, I don't know that everybody is grasping the power of being able to apply principles that I apply in billion-dollar companies into small business, because you grow by understanding that, but you don't wake up today and you have all these things taken care of. But once they listen to you talk about it, knowledge, experience, buy back your time, saving a fraction of the cost of a $200,000, executive. I love your example, and I want you to say it again because I've heard it too. Divide 2,000 into your income, whatever you're making. That chunk of time, and in this case, if you're 200,000 and you have 2,000 hours, it's $100 an hour. So if you're doing $10 an hour things like driving to the grocery store or paying your bills that you could get somebody to do for a fraction of that, that's all you're worth. And you'll never grow unless you do the $1,000 an hour value driven skills. So I think for small businesses, if you can understand that formula that Jonathan just shared with you, divide 2,000 into what you're making, and then that gives you a baseline. Anything under that baseline, you better be figuring out who can do that for you, or you'll never buy back your time. You'll never grow. You'll be stagnant. And you attract your employees by growth. They see, if I come to work for Jonathan, I want to be involved in a growth, not in this way. So, because we were talking Monday night when you had your event over here at Overture, the mindset of the people involved in there were growth. They were looking to grow their company. They're not looking to be stagnant. And I think that's the kind of concept when you get people together and you're sharing the ideas and they're understanding your concept of fractional executive, and you can apply them to maybe my age people, which are baby boomers, who, when they see that word, they're going, that's a weird word. And they don't understand truly what it means to growth. But the younger generation is definitely grasping that. So I want you to as we wrap up and we get towards the end. So what when you talk with people and they're kind of like looking at you like with three eyes and they're going like, this is weird. I mean, what's your thinking? Like, are you going like McFly? What are you thinking when people are just not grasping the concept?
Yeah. So, it's tough because what I end up finding more so than not, the biggest reason that people don't really, if I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily feel like it's not that people don't understand the concept, is that people don't want to understand the concept or don't want to accept the concept.
Yeah.
Because the unfortunate reality is this, right? As we talked about earlier about the theory of constraints, right? What ends up happening is that, give me 1 second. So anyway, one of the biggest things that ends up happening through the theory of constraints is that if you turn around and you are not focusing on the biggest constraint, it is 99% of the time a mindset problem or an emotional problem where you don't like what is constraining your business. There is something about it. And here's the reality, and I hate to say it this way, but the sad reality is as a business owner, the truth of the matter is it it all falls back on you as the business owner. You
Mhm.
have the responsibility. It's your business. No one is going to care for your business. No one's going to love your business. No one is going to put in the energy and the effort into your business that you will. If you do not figure out how to get yourself to focus on the right thing, then no one else will. It just doesn't happen, right? And so 90% of the time what it means is the reason that you need a fractional executive is because either you don't know what you don't know, or you have a mindset challenge that is preventing you from figuring out what needs to happen. So it exposes a lot of our insecurities. It exposes a lot of, oh, well, yeah, I guess I haven't really worked on that because I feel like I suck at that, right? Like I haven't worked on that because I just really don't like it and I have some sort of trauma response around this specific thing, right? There's a lot of different reasons that fall into it, but the reality is they all go back to one thing: me and my shortcomings. It's just that simple, right? Everything comes into that. And so whenever people look at me like that, I kind of feel like there's always this thing of like, what you're saying can't be right. It's something else's fault, right? Like the reason my business is struggling is because just my business is hard, right? There's just nothing to get around that. Or the reason my business is struggling is because, there's just no one on the market looking for what I'm doing. There's always some sort of external reasoning that we place. And here's
Mhm.
the thing, right? With the fractional executive services, what you're essentially saying is like, I realize that I am the one that has a shortcoming. Please come in and help me figure out that shortcoming, right? And if you don't have that mindset, or you're the kind of person who says, no, it's always something else, you're going to look at me like this is crazy. Like the fractional exec thing doesn't make any sense. There's no way it'll work. I've had so many people turn around and tell me, well, there's no way you could help my business. My business is different. I'm sitting here like, I've helped hundreds of businesses in hundreds of different industries, and I have yet to come upon a business that cannot use my services. But sure, whatever, right? You're unique, you're special. You've got your reasonings as to why, it's not you, it's your business. It's whatever, right? And so I think that that's kind of the biggest thing that I've been learning and realizing is it's not about not understanding. It's that people don't want to understand that, hey, maybe I need help. Right? Like you
Yeah.
said earlier, we pride ourselves on, I'm figuring this out. I'm the business owner. I'm and there's this ego component that falls
Yep.
into it that prevents people from being able to see the reality that, hey, like If you had the right person give you the right information at the right time and you were to apply it, you would do amazing with the same 24 hours in the day. So,
Yeah, remember way back, I don't know how long ago, a month or two, we had we were on the Mindset podcast and we were talking with Crystal Duke. And,
yeah.
For those that haven't heard her, she's a health and fitness coach. She's also on Mindset. She could be on about 8 podcasts because she believes in that open, you either closed or open. And if you're a closed-minded person, you'll never grow. If you're an open-minded person, you're saying, well, hey, Jonathan, if I apply this concept to my business, what can I expect to see in growth in me and my business? As opposed to, hey, it's not going to work for me. I have XYZ business and you don't have experience in this business. So how can you relate to me? Every business is the same. We got to get customers, we got to service them, and we got to keep them coming back. And the more value you get, the more money you make. So that was a good segment to what I was going to bring up on the screen. So go to podcasterpekane.com. Now, for 14 days, you'll see an image here tomorrow, but for 14 days, you can be a part of Growth Day. Because if you're not committing to growing in your business, you ain't going to grow. You aren't going to be a big business. You might as well and we had a business that I was a part of 6 months ago when I first got back in the KBA, Kennesaw Business Association. And I just happened to be going to the golf store and I just popped in to see how they're doing. Nothing. Gone. Out of business. Less than a year. They're out of business. Now, we all know businesses fail, but it's by choice. So if you accept an open mindset of learning, you're going to increase your chances many, many times. So if you go to podcasterpekane.com, go to the bottom, it'll say growth tools and you'll see Growth Day. 14 days, you can try it for free. Now, let me repeat, free. No excuses. You can't say, I can't afford it. And then if you like it, $29 you're investing in yourself. Always, and we've talked about this because both Jonathan and I believe in personal development, that if you're making an investment in you, you're going to get many, many times back. So always look to invest in yourself, because if you put money in yourself, no matter what concept you're doing, you're going to grow, because we have unlimited potential, but we put limitations on ourselves. We just do. It's just sometimes how we do that. Like Crystal said, person has a closed mindset, they ain't going to do any of this, but that's their choice. I mean, hey, so go to podcasterpekane.com, get 14 days, try it out. Hey, what do you have to lose? Nothing but growth. Okay, Jonathan, I want you to tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so as it says on the screen, there's my personal phone number. I don't find it weird if you text me, so please text me, call me. Love to get to meet you and everything else. My email is also there. You can also go to my website, pivotalexec.solutions, where you can, learn a little bit more about me and everything else and submit any information you'd like. But yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave that up on there for those that are slow at writing things down. So, Jonathan, as we close, what would you, if somebody's listening to this the first time, they hear the word fractional executive, what would be the one thing you would want them to take home with them from listening to our time on the podcast?
Well, I mean, it's like you mentioned here in the last bit, right? Is don't let yourself be your worst enemy in what you're trying to accomplish. Don't let your ideals and your thought processes and those things get in the way of your own success, right? Be open, be flexible, give things an opportunity to work in your life. And I've been there. I've done the grind. I've done the things, and it's ironic because the less that I do, and the more that I think, the more successful that I become. And that seems counterintuitive, right? We live in a society of work harder, right? Like if you're not being successful, it's because you're not working hard enough. You're not doing enough, right? And we're in a very much a do society, right? But like you mentioned earlier, we are moving to a knowledge-based economy. Your success is no longer derived by how hard you grind, by how hard you push yourself. It is now determined by the knowledge and the knowledge that you acquire. But your mind will only allow knowledge in if you keep it open.
I love it. I can't even add to that. That's so good. All right. Thank you, Jonathan. I want to appreciate. Share this video with people you know in business. Help them understand they're just a decision away from growing. And you decide to grow by your own choice. Nobody's going to force you to grow. You have to make the decision. And thank you so much for viewing us. If you have any questions, call Jonathan, text him, email him, but get a hold of him and get your company in a growth path so you can become the next Amazon and not be the business that went out of business in less than a year. So thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you viewing. We appreciate you being a part of this podcast. Thank you.